Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yemini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of the complete and speedy recovery of Fayga Sarah Bas Gittel, Sasson Betzalel Ben Batya, and Sapir Bas Ariela. May they merit to have a complete and speedy recovery. This week's Parsha Perspective is dedicated in honor of Shlomo Ben Edward. May his soul be uplifted in his memory. A blessing. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Vayigash. Our Parsha picks up where we ended off in last week's Parsha, where Benyamin was found to have Yosef's golden goblet. Yosef then commanded Benyamin to remain in Egypt while the rest of the brothers were free to go back to Canaan. At this point, our Parsha begins, and Yeudah steps up and reacts to Yosef's command that Benyamin must remain in Egypt. He pleads with Yosef to take him instead as a slave, citing that if he were to return home without Benyamin, his father would die of agony from losing a second son. At that time, overcome with emotion, Yosef cannot restrain himself any longer. He asks all but his brothers to leave his presence, and with both sorrow and happiness, he reveals his true identity to his brothers, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. He then instructs them to return home quickly to bring their father and families back to Egypt. The brothers were speechless and completely in shock. They could not believe that their brother was still alive. They began to tremble in fear of the punishment that Yosef would retaliate against them, but instead Yosef called them back to him, telling them that they were forgiven. And at that moment, he made history, becoming the first person in the Torah to forgive each other. When the brothers returned to their houses in Canaan, they told Yaakov something he'd never thought he would hear in his lifetime. Oid Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. Yaakov was ecstatic and overjoyed as the pasuk says, Vatechi ruach Yaakov avihem, and the spirit of the father was revived. Before Yaakov began his journey down to Egypt, Hashem appeared to him and told him that he would go down with him to Egypt and make his family a great nation. Yaakov then gathered his family and quickly traveled to see his beloved son, Yosef. However, a question comes to mind. When Yosef finally revealed his true identity, he said, Ani Yosef ha'oid avichai. I am Yosef, is my father still alive? But didn't Yosef already know that Yaakov was still alive when he asked him in last week's Parsha? When he told him, how is your father whom you speak of? Is he still in good health? And they replied to him, all is well with your servant, our father, he is still in good health. So why did Yosef ask his brothers again if his father was still alive? The Kli Yakar on this pasuk writes that Yosef asked if Yaakov was still alive because he was worried that his brothers were lying to him. He thought that they were only speaking about Yaakov's fragile health to obtain mercy and compassion for Benyamin to return home. Therefore, when he ultimately revealed his identity, the first thing he wanted to know was the true condition of his father, Yaakov. However, the Lubavitch Rebbe gives a deeper and more profound explanation. He writes that Yosef already knew that Yaakov was still alive from all the previous conversations. And this is why when the brothers were speechless, when they found out who Yosef really was, he did not wait for them to answer his question. Instead, he reassured them that he harbors no ill feelings towards them and they should go as soon as possible to bring Yaakov down to Egypt. The Rebbe explains that Yosef asked about Yaakov because he wanted to relax and calm his brothers down. For when he asked about their father, he was signaling to his brothers that although they may not be from the same mother, they are intrinsically connected through their father, that he will follow in their father's footsteps of being a man of words rather than violence, that he will allow them to see the error of their ways and take responsibility for it instead of punishing them for what he views as God's plan all along. And by asking about Yaakov, Yosef was telling his brothers that he already has forgiven them, and now they must work on forgiving themselves. In our daily life and during such decisive times, we must remember that forgiveness is a hard thing to achieve, but even more difficult to give out. For when someone has wronged us, we typically do not want to accept their apologies no matter how hard they work to get it. However, we must learn to be more forgiving of others, especially if they wish to atone for their mistakes. For you can either hold a grudge forever or allow yourself the freedom to let go, move forward, and accomplish bigger and greater achievements. There is an amazing quote that I once heard. Forgive others not only because they deserve forgiveness, but also because you deserve peace. Have an easy fast and a meaningful Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.